In tonight's headlines, the government holds back on a scheme to import construction workers after lawmakers warn of potential loopholes of exploitation. Beijing and Hong Kong slam Washington's business advisory, which is aimed at suppressing the SAR's development. And the Consumer Council receives more than 170 complaints involving nearly $6.4 million after the temporary shutdown of a major fitness chain. The government for the first time has decided not to grant quotas to the latest batch of applications opened in July for a scheme to bring in construction workers from outside the city amid allegations surfaced about migrant laborers being exploited. The Labor and Welfare Bureau noted that the Development Bureau came up with a decision after carefully examined factors including whether the applicants had tried to recruit locally before applying and if there was a true need for imported worker. Undersecretary Ho Kai-ming said the authorities would continue to monitor the situation, pledging to address the issue at its fundamental so migrant laborers feel protected when they come to work in the city. He noted that during a meeting convened yesterday in conjunction with the Security Bureau, the Development Bureau, police, and the Labor Department to meet with representatives of trade unions, they learned about some new developments which they had never heard of and vowed to investigate further and take legal actions if needed. The construction sector scheme, first implemented last July, accepts application on a seasonal basis, with a maximum quota of 12,000 per season. So far, over 9,000 quota had been granted. The Construction Industry Employees General Union welcomed the government decision in putting a halt to the scheme, saying that the number of private construction projects had greatly reduced. With public projects hiring foreign laborers, local workers will face tougher challenges. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
The updated Hong Kong business advisory issued by the U.S. government, warning of new and heightened risks in the city due to national security laws, is unfounded and serves as a malicious attack against Hong Kong and the mainland as a whole, said officials from both the central and SAR governments. In the advisory released overnight on Saturday, the U.S. Departments of State, Agriculture, Commerce, Homeland Security, and Treasury jointly claimed that U.S. firms operating in Hong Kong are facing increasing risks, citing vague provisions that criminalize activities related to state secrets and espionage contained in the SAR's local version of the national security law. In a strong rebuttal, a spokesperson from the Foreign Ministry's Commissioner's Office in Hong Kong slammed the advisory for misrepresenting the national security law and undermining the business environment in the region. The spokesperson urged the U.S. to abide by the international law, lift unreasonable sanctions, and stop interfering in the SAR and China's internal affairs. Also hitting back at the comments, Chief Secretary Eric Chan said they're nothing but another U.S. scaremongering trick to suppress Hong Kong's development, which is doomed to failure. He also refuted the U.S. claim of an arbitrary enforcement of local laws in Hong Kong, saying every case was adjudicated based on evidence. Meanwhile, Eric Tan, the Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs, said the U.S. so-called warnings are attempts to stifle both the SAR's and mainland's growth. He stressed that the targeted national security law and the safeguarding national security ordinance under Article 23 of the Basic Law are critical stabilizers for the city. He also highlighted significant opportunities in the Greater Bay Area for both local and international stakeholders. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
The government noted that public housing tenants could expect their quality of living to keep getting better, while expressing optimism to reduce the waiting time for those on a waiting list to 4.5 years by 2026. Housing Secretary Winnie Ho took to the airwaves this morning to emphasize that the recently launched Well-being Design Guidelines for Public Housing aim to boost tenants' happiness and improve their living conditions. While the guidelines did not touch on increasing living space, the housing chief said a minimum floor area of 26 square meters will be established for subsidized flats to be launched in 2026 and 2027. And the government has also reserved more lands with plans to enlarge unit size at places like the artificial islands and northern metropolis areas by as much as 10%. But Ho also stressed that more lands would be needed if unit size is to be increased, so at this stage, the government should prioritize on how to better utilize the lands on hand to step up construction speed in a bid to cut down the waiting time to be housed. Meanwhile, in his opening speech at the inaugural Estate Festival, Deputy Financial Secretary Michael Wong said the current administration saw that the target to complete over 30,000 public housing units annually over the next few years is achievable, and hence is optimistic about bringing down the average waiting time from the record high of 6.1 years in 2021 and 2022 to 4.5 years by the end of the current term. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Authorities have urged the now temporarily shut physical fitness to properly address subsequent issues with customers and employees, as complaints have been pouring in following the gym chain's unexpected closure of all branches across the city yesterday. Customs officers acknowledged 4 complaints over violation of the Trade Descriptions Ordinance and had established a special team to investigate the matter, prompting impacted consumers to reach out for assistance. The Consumer Council said it had received 171 related complaints as of noon today, with the amount involved in the cases reaching nearly $6.4 million. The consumer watchdog also urged the company to take the initiative by contacting its customers as soon as possible about arrangements involving unredeemed services. Similarly, the Federation of Trade Unions noted that it had received over 20 complaints from consumers involving approximately $600,000 in potential refunds. Consumers are concerned that the gym's reopening is merely a tactic to delay refunds, as the gym intentionally sold memberships with terms of up to 10 years last month, fully aware that the business could not sustain itself. Federation of Trade Unions lawmaker Bill Tan said this means the gym could have violated the Trade Descriptions Ordinance, urging the responsible person to provide an explanation as soon as possible. Meanwhile, in a related development, 110 employees of physical fitness filed grievances to the Labor Department, as the closure has jeopardized the jobs of over 700 staff members. The department said it is in contact with the company's management, demanding that employee matters be properly handled in accordance with the employment ordinance in the terms of the employment contracts. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
The United Nations has called for a full investigation into the killing of a Turkish-American woman who was allegedly shot by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank yesterday. 26-year-old Ayznur Ezgi Aygi was taking part in a weekly protest against Jewish settlement expansion in the town of Beita near Nablus when the demonstration came under attack. The dual national was rushed to the Rafidia hospital in Nablus but died shortly after arrival. Dr. Fuad Nafa said the injury to her head was very severe and her skull had fragmented. Israeli Defense Forces said the incident is under review and details of the circumstances in which she was hit are being looked into. For almost 10 days now, Israeli forces have been conducting security operations in the West Bank to curb attacks against Israeli citizens.
All right, good morning, sir. Are you Mr. Colt Gray?
Yes, sir. The 14-year-old student who shot and killed 2 schoolmates, 2 teachers, and injured 9 others at the Appalachian High School in Winder in the U.S. state of Georgia earlier this week made his first court appearance for a preliminary hearing. However, the judge made an error when he briefed the accused juvenile about the maximum punishment for his crimes.
I want to make you aware that the maximum penalty for felony murder So for each count, the maximum penalty is that you could be punishable by death, by imprisonment for life, without parole, or by imprisonment for life, with the possibility of parole.
Realizing later that the death penalty is not applicable as Colt is under 18 years of age, Mingledorff offered a correction.
I just need to correct a couple of things on the record. I correctly told you the maximum penalty for the crimes for which you are charged. That's correct, except for the fact that you are under 18 years old. So I wanted to inform you and make it clear to you that the penalty for the crimes for which you are charged does not include death.
Colt's father, 54-year-old Colin Gray, also made his court appearance a while later. He is charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter and 2 counts of second-degree murder for knowingly letting his son possess a gun. Both father and son will remain in custody as their lawyers did not seek bail.
After bagging an impressive 3 gold and 2 silver medals at the Paris Paralympics, the city's Bocha team returned home in triumph. John Long secured the team's first gold in men's BC1 individual, setting the stage for a great start, while Ho Yun Kei made history by winning back-to-back gold medals in BC3 individual and in mixed doubles with their teammate Zhe Takwa. The team also celebrated the achievements of silver medalists Chen Yuan and Leung Yuk Wing, along with Yeon Hugh Lam, who performed strongly in the mixed BC4 doubles event. Ho Yun Kei recalled how her husband and coach Lee Wing Kit, who was still her boyfriend then, encouraged her to persevere after her defeat at the 2016 Rio Paralympics. Now that their wishes had come true, Ho said she had become more greedy, hoping there could be many more Ho Yun Keis, and therefore had decided to use her prize money to set up a scholarship to support young talent in the sport. Veteran athlete Leung Yuk Ting thanked the public for their support and acknowledged the dedication of their coaching team. We need one-on-one support during competitions. With only 3 to 4 full-time coaches for 10 athletes, we often rely on volunteers who must take time off work to assist us. I hope the government will allocate more resources to hire full-time caregivers, allowing us to focus solely on our performance, he added. For Chen Yuan, despite it was her first time participating in the Paralympics, she managed to secure 2 silver medals. She hoped she could win gold next time. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.